Alright, guys. We've got Clem in the bottom right side of the map, BYUN in the top right side as well. It's Terran versus Protoss here on Fear and Faith. And it's going to be vertical spawns. It's a best of 3 in the upper bracket of the Monday Night Weekly. A TVP match that we've seen many times before. But you know what? Clem has not been as successful with his Protoss on the new patch. It's gone through a few iterations. He's clearly been spending a lot of time trying to figure out his Terran play. Now that, you know, they fixed the warp gate not being on the cyber core, they've buffed it a little bit here and there. Has he figured things out just yet? Now, one thing I've noticed is that a lot of Protoss players have been incredibly slow to figure out how to use the new gateways. I think it's one of the more obvious advantages that you can lean into defensively in the early mid game. And it's been kind of shocking to me how many Protoss players, when they're in a purely defensive stance, it doesn't seem to even occur to them to leave their warp gates in gateway form. To me, it's just a reminder that strategy games are vast and deep. StarCraft 2 is a game that's so fast-paced, and when you're dealing with a different worker start, a different opening set of numbers, well, your mind's occupied. And most players, even high-level pro players like Clem, are basically just trying to make the exact builds that they were using before work with the new numbers. And that means they aren't focusing on really optimizing things as much as they maybe could. Now, he darts in with the probe, tries to make it look like he comes from a normal direction, which is really cute. And this is Command Center first for BYUN. Keep in mind, guys, this is a 400 mineral Command Center, not a 300 mineral Command Center, just so you know. BYUN's going to have to pull an SCV to defend. Now, he actually does pause SCV production to build that barracks. This was, I think it was this 15 Command Center, 16 barracks, I believe, guys, which is not a bad opening. And you might think, isn't that a bit greedy? As long as your command center is on the high ground, not on the natural, usually it's quite safe against Protoss, unless they already were blindly committing to some sort of proxy gate. Going to be Nexus into Cybercore. So quite an economic play for Clem, and this is where Clem has a decision to make. He could go take a third base. There's a very real option here to just basically stay on one gas, go take a third. It's a very rare option. What I've seen more commonly here in response to a CC first is players dump 2 or 3 chronos into Warp Gate, they make 3 or 4 gateways, and they just go for a big old gateway attack. And they basically say, you might have a fast expansion, but you're not going to be able to mine from it. If you come down to this low ground, I'm going to jump on you. I'm not going to let you get a bunker up, or I might even just shade adepts past that bunker, and I'll run over the top of you. Clem, though, is a very standard player and a very defensive player. If there's ever a Protoss who's just going to let his opponent get away with it, it probably is Clem. And you can see, he's chronoing probes. So he's done 2 chronos on the probes there. He's making adepts, making warp gate. It's a very chill opening. And he's giving BYUN all the time he needs to go for the barracks, the factory. And you know what's so funny, guys? No wall off at all here for BYUN. He's going to go straight for Hellions, a hyper-mobile unit, to cover him against the weakness of this lack of a wall off. Probe goes back to hide in the worker-only path on the right side of the map. Not a bad call there for Clem, who goes Twilight Council. Chronos is natural. And he's going to be going, of course, for Blink Stalkers. So really typical opening for Clem. And he's just going to accept the slight economic deficit. If BYUN can clean up 1 or 2 adepts for free, get his natural landed really early, I do like BYUN's position, but it's always very touch and go. If you lose a Hellion early on to an adept and a stalker or something like that, it can kind of snowball the other way. And actually, oh, he's not swapping. He's just going to build Marines. Oh, okay. Probe comes in again. Good scouting there. Clem does see the barracks on the reactor, so he knows it's not Hellions or double mine production. This adept's going to work its way in here. 3 Marines should be able to deal with that. But that's good for Clem. Gets an attack off. Free damage. But the Cyclone, of course, will shut things down. Starport's almost there as well. BYUN happy to oversaturate his main base for now, just playing it safe. Depot timing is near perfect. Second gateway is now up, and a robo going down for Clem. Third gateway as well. Now, third gateway is entirely unnecessary, as is a 4th gateway, unless you're planning to be really aggressive with like 4-gate blink aggro. It looks like he's going to go 4-gate blink, so he's going to play full all-out aggression. You know what'd be really cool is once BYUN's focused on defending the natural, you could come in here, build a pylon inside the base, and actually ruin his day. Cyclone's coming to the low ground. Uh-oh. Adept gets caught out there. That's going to be a nice kill. Only gets 1 hit on the Cyclone, chipping a little bit of paint off it. 9 damage only. And you can see straight to warp gates, which makes sense because Clem's planning to be aggressive. But it's not the fastest aggression. And he's even taking a 4th gas here. Interesting. Warp Prism does start up. Blink is well underway. Siege Tank, Raven, 2nd barracks coming in for BYUN. Now, on this map, 4-gate blink's awful, guys. You can only attack the naturals. This is a terrible build choice for Clem, especially if he's just being defensive. And remember, off 2 gateways, he could have made way more Stalkers than this. But because he's both made 2 more gateways, that's 300 minerals, extra expense. But he's also transformed 4 gateways, which is another 100 minerals and 100 gas. So he spent 400 more minerals and 100 gas. If he doesn't use this aggressively, that's an extra Nexus and an extra upgrade that he could have invested in here, right? Or three more Stalkers he could have had. So he is being aggressive now, but it's a very light aggression into a one-directional angle. Like, he can do a Stalker drop, and that's about it. A bunker and a tank covers the natural entirely. There's a Cyclone also to cover the drop. Bad play for Clem. It shows his lack of experience with Protoss on the new patch and on these maps. This is not a good choice for him. Comes in. Let's see if he can grab a few Marines. He's going to blink north. This is dangerous. This is very dangerous. But if he gets the Cyclone... Oh, brilliant play. Gets the Cyclone. That's worth it. Okay, that's really good. Because but then he misclicks it. He misclicks the Prism towards the Marines. I think they would have probably got out if he continued south or north. But he loses the Prism with the Stalkers inside. He's lost an Adept, 4 Stalkers and a Prism. That is an awful opening. And now Clem's opening. He's not used any of the defensive bonuses that Protoss gets in this patch. And that's a real big problem. Because remember, Clem essentially became a god of this matchup off of mastering one style to the extreme. The Max Pack style, a very good style of TVP, but you'll notice Max Pax has dropped massively on the ladder this season. He's down to 6,200. His style is not the optimal style anymore. You need to adjust and adapt, and that's something Clem is going to need to be doing here against BYUN, because BYUN is incredibly good in this matchup. That probe pull away was brilliant for Clem, by the way. That was so well done. Didn't leave any kills. Look at this. Raven dumps its energy, 0 kills. It was a shame that auto turret didn't shift-click the probes and actually wasted time attacking the Stalkers, but really well done there by Clem. He's got to play from behind now. He's trying to go for Colossus. Remember, this, like I said, is before yesterday's patch. I say yesterday's, casting this just 24 hours after the 300 Mineral Command Center patch that also buffed the Colossus. These will be the regular Colossus, 10 damage versus Marauders times 2, not 12 times 2. Double drop going down the far right side of the map. Third base is up with 8 probes. He's building 2 more gateways. Yet again, another 300 minerals, where if these were just transforming back to gateway form, he could be making so many more Zealots and Stalkers right now. But Clem has not learnt that style. He clearly has not learnt it at all. Drop goes into the main. Stalkers are there, but not enough to actually shoot the drop down. And that BYUN boosted in, which is so dangerous. And yet doesn't get punished for it, so BYUN gets away with murder there. Here we go, guys. 14 Stalkers, 3 Zealots, 1 Sentry. We've got Colossus range on the way. First Colossus is out. Second one should be coming soon. Stalkers, do they take out the Raven? Not quite. Stalkers blinking away. Bio does take out the Observer there. We're going to see this army roaming around. No third command center till just now. So BYUN very committed on this 2-base push. The first Colossus is arriving. There's a Guardian Shield with no extended thermal ads. This is the push that's got to decide this game. The Colossus not landing any hits on the Marines. Anti-armor missile comes down as well. The tank never sieged up. Finally, it sieges up for BYUN. BYUN does have 4 medevacs healing, and he's got to be really careful about not taking a bad fight. I wonder if he picks up some Marines and drops them over here to try and force Clem to engage. But he kind of wants to keep his ball together. Marauders in front, Marines behind so that he can stutter step down the Zealots. A massive Stalker counterattack here for Clem. He's going to catch a few of these medevacs coming across with these Marauders. That's going to be really nice. Does take out the medevacs. Blinks backwards, which is, I guess, a bit of a crazy choice, but that's why. It's because these guys have stimmed in. And BYUN quickly picks up, leaves 2 Marauders behind. Marines on the front line is very dangerous. The Widow Mines are going to fire on these Zealots. Not really the best Widow Mine shots at all. The Marauders and Marines go forwards here. The tank is still alive, which is the most important part for BYUN. As long as that tank's alive, it's going to add really important firepower. Unfortunately, BYUN did not target the Colossus with the Siege Tank, where it would have had its effect most let known. But oh my lord, the Marauders come forward. There's no Zealots left. The Colossus go down. Clem too far behind from that early game. And this all comes back to Clem's, I think, playing of the map just not being correct here. If you're going to try and punish against the command center first with a 4-gate blink, makes sense. Not on this map. Why? Because normally the way a 4-gate blink works, guys, is you go to the front, they've got a bunker, a tank, you go, oh, that's fine, I'll go around and blink in the main. You can't do that on this map. There's no way around. And then to lose the full prism on top of it was a disaster. So with what he achieved with his drop, it was nothing, right? His build made no sense. Aggression on this map only makes sense if you're actually able to bust the front, which up this ramp seems nonsensical, right? So essentially, he would have been better off not making warp gates at all, staying on 2 gateways. He saw command center first. He knows BYUN's aggressive options are limited. he could have just taken a quick third, macroed up off of 2 gateways, made the warp gates once he had 3 bases saturated, had upgrade lead, economy lead, and BYUN's inflexibility with a Terran command center first would have had a very narrow timing to even things out. But Clem, I'm very confident. I just feel like he played the map wrong, played the matchup wrong, and it's because all of his focus is obviously learning Terran builds right now for the new patch, so it's going to take him a bit longer to adapt. All right, guys, going into game 2, and little update. Apparently, there is an air blocker on that previous map. So that wasn't a misclick from Clem's Prism. Apparently, there's a little air blocker at the exit of those worker-only tunnels, so his Prism naturally bounced around that. So in hindsight, I guess he had to book it north to try and escape to the corner, and would have been able to get out with the Prism. But unfortunate for Clem not knowing about that little detail. I didn't know that. So we're finding out in real time. Little quirks of the new maps. BYUN in the top right side. I doubt he goes Command Center first 2 games in a row, but you never know. I think Command Center first has been one of the more promising build orders. I think BYUN's openings, he's been cooking with them, and I just feel like his openings are probably the best for Terran in the world right now. I could be off, but we'll see. So is he going to go for maybe just a 14-14 or no 13? Okay, he's going to do the 13 barracks, 14 gas. I think the Clem opening from Home Story Cup, I believe, with the downtime on the barracks. Just there's a few seconds idle on the barracks before that Reaper comes out. Probe's going to move forwards. Chrono on the probes. There's a gate and a gas coming. Glasses at Twitch chat and sees someone saying, "What? You open your bananas before you eat them?" Don't know what that discussion's about, but I enjoy it. I don't even want context. I just want to enjoy that single statement with no context. It's much more fun to imagine what prompted such a statement. Probe is dancing around. Gets a little bit of damage on these SCVs. Nothing too crazy. Go through the mineral line's a bit crazy because it's so easy to kill that. Hero loves to do that move, but even Hero probably wouldn't do that if he already had all of his shields removed. So Clem does get punished. BYUN pulls the SCVs, kills it. You can see there is a nice early eco lead here. That early chrono boost start here for Clem does give him a bit of an edge. And this is with him actually cutting probes because he's going for a Zealot pressure. He's going to go Zealot, Cybercore, second pylon, and only then into Nexus. So a big slowdown on his economy to try and get some damage. And this is against a Marine into Reactor build where BYUN hasn't pulled off gas. Gotta say, I'm not the biggest fan of BYUN's build order, guys, because he's mining so much gas at just 12 workers on minerals. And I think if you're doing a 1-rax expand and you're not going for a Reaper, like you're doing an economic play, but you're also not maximizing your economy because your minerals is kind of the heart of everything. You can see now he builds a factory, but he can't afford to build 2 Marines. This build sucks, in my opinion. There are real trade-offs you have to constantly make with the new economy and the new 8 worker start. Where you can't just do everything at once like you could with the 12 workers. And I think here, BYUN is kind of making... It's not the worst, but it's just a little... Like, it's kind of an economic play, but also he's not really maximized his minerals that much. With the Zealot and the Adept coming in, this is the scary moment. He's going to have to pull back with these Marines and wait for reinforcements. But if he gets some damage on the Zealot before the Adept shades in, that's good. That's good damage for him. But once the Zealot and the Adept gets on top, that's where he's in trouble. Can he take out the Zealot and raise the depot? Ooh, the Zealot blocked that depot from raising, which means the Adept gets in. There is 2 more Marines about to come out. The Adept does get trapped inside. Can the Adept pick off maybe 1 or 2 of these damaged SCVs, I think is the trick here for Clem. But he goes to the corner, which, I don't know, it kind of corners him. He's going to recall it. We'll survive. Does get out of there. Starport has begun. Of course, the command center is up on the natural. Orbital finally making. You can see how hard it is to afford Marine production off at such an early reactor. When you've also stayed on gas this long. And the amount of gas that BYUN has is where I'm really criticizing this. But if he'd maybe just pulled 1 worker off gas pretty much immediately after starting the reactor and left it on 2 workers on gas, even that, 1 extra guy on minerals this whole time would have made this build so much smoother. But Pig, the economic trade-offs with 8 workers, is that good or bad for the game? It's subjective. It's basically your openings are more awkward. There's more choices you have to make about, do I want to go for this earlier or this? Like, there's constant little decisions in terms of your build order, what you're prioritizing. But in terms of flow, it's more awkward. In 12 workers, you just get to like kind of smoothly hit bam, 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 do bam, 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 and hit these things. And it's more about like executing everything like bam, quickly, right on time, that sort of stuff. Whereas with this, it's much more about, you know, do I want to do this or that? But it also, people will really dislike because it had such a lovely flow with 12 workers. So a lot of people have been complaining about this. I don't think it's as negative as some people say. I think a lot of people are super triggered by the fact, and I know I am in my games. Like, for instance, like the first week of the PTR, I was just losing my mind playing Protoss when I had to upgrade Warp Gate off Cybercore. It wasn't the 8 workers, it was that. And I think likewise, there's just a lot of balance kind of issues and things are weird. Like Protoss kind of gets this lead with Chrono, but then Zerg has this weird lava boost. And it's just hard like to factor everything in. There's a lot of times where I think my opponent's like dead because I've denied their 3rd or 4th for a bit, but then I realize like the bases take a few minutes longer to mine out and they come out with like an army way bigger than I expect. And it's just, you know, there's a lot of like reprogramming my game sense that I have to do as a player, where I expect things to be a certain way after many years of conditioning and they're not that way. Yeah, there are times when it's frustrating. I think that's good personally for me in my enjoyment because I like solving new problems. I know Harstem's been saying that a lot. I like to solve new problems. And for me, it's the same. It's like I like I like that resistance and then finding ways through it because it like pushes me to problem solve. But that's purely subjective. A lot of people don't like that. No 3rd command center for a while. It's going to be a very standard 2-base play. Raven's just hiding in the bottom side. Cyclone up the top. Cyclone, of course, is hoping to catch like a Warp Prism or something. Cyclone's not the most useful unit the later the game goes. So actually, I like the idea of just keeping a Cyclone up here patrolling. This is the most common drop path, and maybe you can catch it. Now, of course, Charge is on the way. 3 more gateways. He's still playing full Warp Gates, is Clem, despite playing a very defensive stance right now. So this is, like I said, the missteps that I was talking about before. There's no reason to make Warp Gates until you make your Warp Prism. He's not got a Warp Prism. He's not got any forward pylons. Obviously, yes, it allows you to warp in where you're needed. But you know what's better than that? Having way more actual units out. And I guess for him, he's building his 8 gateways. But realistically, I don't think he's planning to attack until he has at least 1 Colossus on the front, maybe 2 or 3. So this is just Clem not really having worked into his play any of the new advantages. Nice Cyclone. Gets a Stalker kill. And good pullbacks there for BYUN. Gotta be careful with the Marines. You don't want those to stray too far in front. But the Cyclone forcing Clem back. And a scan for BYUN. No, he's not going to scan. Usually BYUN's like, he immediately gets rid of the Observer. He hates the Observer. There we go. He does get rid of it now. Not many Marines have actually died. Finally, a couple of them get picked off. Charges here, but it's 6 Stalkers, 10 Zealots. Is that enough? 3 probes go down to the auto turrets in the main. 2 auto turrets go down. Woo! And he's got 1 more, so when those probes go back to mining, he's going to disrupt the mining massively. If he can shift-click the red hit point probes, that would be amazing. I don't think he's got the APM to do it. But still, very good. 7 probes in total. 7 probes in total for the Raven. More bio coming forward. BYUN still has a very scary army supply lead. First Colossus arrives. He's going to try and break this. I think Clem was hoping to catch BYUN on siege, but he sieged up. The Widowmine lands a big hit. He's going to take out 2 of the siege tanks. All of the siege tanks. There were only 2 of them. I think that's an okay trade for Clem. But of course, BYUN's going to immediately say, well, if you remove my static army, I'll spring into action. Loads a double drop towards the main. Stalkers getting a Raven would be a lovely catch. And I think with a slow zone, that's an easy pick off. But no, the sight blocker saves the day, and a Stalker actually goes down there. Really good pick off for BYUN. Now, there's 8 warp gates, but there's no money to actually be warping in off. And this is that classic situation where if you do play regular gateways instead of warp gates as Clem, you'd be miles ahead here because you just have so much more tempo in terms of Zealot Stalker count to defend that first push. But he's going to try to warp into defend, uses a recall at the same time. Army up top, it's going to be hard to deal with. The Colossus is there. It's going to do some decent damage. Oh, the Widow Mines might do friendly fire. No, they get big hits on the Zealots at the same time in the main base. I think there's just enough Zealot Stalker to defend. So great defense with the recall in the main. But, he's out on his own, this Colossus. He's trying to do energy recharges. The probes need to fight to defend the Colossus. He's got to defend the Colossus, but no, it goes down. If he saved that Colossus, I think Clem would maybe not be in such an awful spot because the second one would be popping out and extended thermal lance, but it looks like Zealots get cleaned up by the bio over there. And he's just queued something into the main, has Clem. No? I just saw his camera was down here for a few seconds. But maybe he was just making sure he was sending everything home. The Raven makes it home, which is really valuable. It's going to gather energy for anti-armor missiles later on. These Zealots are going to run in and just die if Clem's not careful. Clem's got to be careful. He's got to save every unit he can. He's still on 62 probes, so his economy's not bad. He's got a second Colossus building. Extended Thermal Lance is about to kick in. Remember, no Forge in this game. So the idea of skipping the Forge is so you can kind of control the early game a bit better. Instead, he's going to have 1/1 upgrade Terran staring him down. Ghost Academy's on the way. Second Starport's coming in. Not just that, a 5th Barracks. 4th and 5th Barracks are both going to be finishing soon. One on a reactor. One will be able to build its own potential tech lab there as well. Oh, sorry, actually, no, this is the 5th Barracks. That's the Starport. He's already got 3 tech labs, 1 reactor. And he will go for 4 tech labs on the barracks. That makes sense. Small squad of Stalkers fighting for map control. Love to see the activity for Clem. Gets a medevac even. Super worth, even if he loses a Stalker, which the Stim Marauders should be able to reach. Yes, they do. 4th Nexus goes down for Clem. Clem's so good at hanging on in these sorts of situations. Three Ghosts, 4 Vikings are on the way. Second Forge squeezed out. I'm always impressed by a guy like Clem or MaxPax's ability to feel comfortable going for the second Forge in a game like this. Bio getting jumped on. Medevac does take some damage. Ooh, 2 Stalkers do fall. Bunch of Zealots go down. Gets a few kills, but Clem's got to trade better than that. Right now, the trading is 2-1 in Terran's favor, and that's really rough. Ooh, Widow Mines taking out one of his own Ghosts. Hey, not bad. Zealots are cheap units. Getting a Ghost and a few Widow Mines for a few Zealots, not to mention pulling BYUN's attention here. Brilliant. Remember, there's no 2-2 on the way. So every second that goes by, you've got more Colossus building as Clem. You've got armor, +1, double Forge going. Clem's like, give me time. Give me time. Please, please, please. 6 Vikings against 3 Colossus is not too bad. But with 4 Vikings building, you give that a minute, there'll be 10, 12 Vikings out. And these Colossus will be not worthless, but pretty bad. And without a next step, no Disruptors, no Storm, it's going to be tough for an out-upgraded Protoss. Anti-armor missile does land. The Colossus come forward. One of those Colossus already almost dead. No Prism here to juggle the Colossus. Without a Prism to juggle the Colossus, they go down very quickly. Force Field's trying to hold the line, but the Marauders and Marines breaking through. The Zealot flank comes in, but Clem too far behind, and BYUN is going to knock Clem to the lower bracket here in the Monday Night Weekly. Nice, clean games for BYUN. BYUN played completely standard in these games, I would say. The only difference was Command Center first, game 1, and it was like a Reactor expand game 2. I do criticize BYUN's opening because, like I said, this is too much gas, essentially. You've really got to pay attention to the mineral count in this main. I think you want to keep that as close to 16 as possible with any expand build, as long as possible, because minerals are what build depots, command centers, SCVs, barracks, all the core things that you turn into anything else. And you could really see BYUN struggling to have the money for a bunker, for an orbital, for marine production. He had the gas, so he was like, well, I want to throw the factory, but that delayed his Marines, which made defending the Zealot and Adept a bit harder. I think you're better off being a bit more mineral-focused, delaying the factory a little bit longer here, personally. Or if you're going to do it this way, maybe don't bother with the reactor. Speed the factory up even more and rely on that for the defense, which would be vulnerable against an early Zealot. I don't know. It feels to me like we've still all got a lot of figuring out to do on these build orders. But at the end of the day, from there, 3 barracks. He's got a Raven harassing. He does his stim tank push, takes a delayed third behind it. Classic TVP play here for BYUN. And I think this is the sort of kind of 3 barracks before third command center push, which I think the new gateway production does so well against. But Clem just clearly hasn't experimented with that. So I think that's an area he's really got to work on figuring out. It is such a different flow of gameplay. Takes a bunch of time and practice, but if you're going to off-race Protoss in this matchup, I think he's got to get after it and learn that gateway swapping style, where you start on gateways and you only swap to warp gates when you are attacking your opponent and not before then. GG, well played. BYUN gets a 2-0.